I'm Carrie Pittman Hill. I am from Birmingham, Alabama. I started as of January 2026 will be, I believe, my 13th year. I was heavily in sales and had a financial industry background, brokerage, life insurance, banking. So I have kind of that business background and then just started painting as a creative outlet. I went through a really bad breakup at the time and really just wanted to paint. And that was part of my healing. So that turned into a very slowly evolving business. And here I am today, still painting. I still love it. It's still my favorite thing. And it has grown into a pretty big business for me.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, I think you have beautiful work and a beautiful style that you've kind of become known for. Can you talk about how you developed your voice and your style as an artist? Was it something that came naturally, or did you kind of evolve over time? How do you think about, I guess, style in general?
I think first of all, Haley, it really just started kind of just me expressing myself. Just kind of, I tell people this, I never created anything for anyone to ever see, ever buy, ever have hanging on their wall. It was really just part of something I was doing at that time. I had a decorator that came across my work. We were actually working on some financial things in my other business, and she loved my work and she was like, you're really talented. And I was really embarrassed. And I was like, well, let's get back to the financial part. I don't sell my work. I don't want anyone to see my work. My style was really just something that I was playing with, just using different things I had at my house. I mean, a spatula, nail polish, glue, knives, forks, spoons. I mean, just I was very cheap and no one was going to see my work. So I was just using things that I had and experimenting. Over time, I feel like I've gotten into more of a fluid style, a lot of water. I use a lot of layers. I don't spend a lot of time on one piece at one time. It may be half an hour, but I may do that for 8 to 20 times. It just depends on the piece. I would say it's a pretty fluid. There's some pieces that have a lot of movement in it, and then there's other pieces that people feel like are very calm and soothing. I'm self taught, so I don't have any, I feel like I could be trained and I want to continue to be coachable and teachable. But for now, that's kind of the style that I've kind of evolved, and I guess people notice.
Yeah, well, and it sounds like you caught the eye of a designer right away. How did you start selling these pieces? I mean, if they were never meant to be seen, how did you transition into actually making it a business?
So I was working full time in a family business, like literally an 8 to 5, 8 to 6 job, Monday through Friday, sitting behind a desk on a computer. And I was meeting clients in the grocery store parking lot on my lunch
Mhm.
break at 5 o'clock, 5:30 when I got off work, and on the weekends. To answer your question, initially, that first interaction was very humbling, and I was kind of embarrassed because it was like I didn't want anyone to see anything.
Yeah.
Uh, and this lady, this decorator, she said, "Well, I have a job that I'm working on, and I want to commission you." And I said, "Well, I don't do commissions." Like it really kind of got on my nerves, and she would not leave me alone. And so we finally got to the compromise of I said, "If you will go buy my canvases, I will paint the commissions for you at no charge for free. Our client's
Mhm.
going to be appointed." And so she went and bought the canvas and dropped them off at my apartment. And I painted them, for free and did the job. And, I laugh because now I'm like, who knows what she marked those up to for her client. But
That you did for free.
that I did for free.
Well, yeah, but
She bought the canvas and I had to paint. And then she said, "Can I host an art show for you at my house?" And I was like, "Oh, I guess." And so she got every girl and me, and I painted like 40 or 50 pieces. I stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning after work, like 3 nights in a row. And I got those cheap, real thin, like buy one, get one at Michael's. And I painted as many as I could. And I made like $4,000 or $5,000 in one night at her house. And, several decorators came and they were like, your work is great, but you cannot paint on these thin, cheap, flimsy canvases. You're going to have to do the thicker ones. And I was like, well, I don't want to buy those. But anyway, that was kind of my start. I mean, I
Mhm.
guess just somebody believing in me, speaking talent out of me that I didn't know I had, I didn't know I wanted, I didn't know I could even do, investing in me just in time and in her home. And, she invited all these people, and I invited people, and the jewelry girl invited people. And I think just kind of growing where people were approaching me, and I was just using that extra time on my lunch breaks and after working on the weekends to do that business. That extra income was really, it was a creative outlet, and it was really fun to be making money in those places. And that season went on for about 2.5 years because I got so busy that I really had to make a decision. It was starting to affect my career. And in the business I was in, you're either going to continue to grow and increase your clientele and increase your book of business financially. You kind of need to step out. And so I had
Mhm.
to really prayerfully consider, and then you have the family component. Is this the leap and the jump that I want to take with my artwork?
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing. I think so many aspects of that are so interesting. Like the fact that she saw something in you, but also like pushed you. Like at first you're like, no, I don't really want to do the commission. And she's like, you kind of have to. And then she's like, no,
It,
you're going to do the show at my house. You kind of have to. That's amazing.
was aggressive, and I'm thankful. I still, to this day, 13 years later, I thank her all the time because I just, if everybody had a Virginia walk into their life that was persistent and saw talent and took a step, I probably wouldn't be here.
Yeah. I mean, it's so true. It's like sometimes you just need that external push of somebody being like, you know, this is something and you need to do it. Like we all kind of need that nudge. So I think that's so lucky that you got it. When you did get to that point where you were kind of, I either need to like go more into this or kind of stick with my more corporate, like standard job, how did you decide to lean more into artwork?
Honestly, just faith.
Hmm.
I mean, it was really hard because I'm speaking to, everybody, but specifically to women. At this point in my life, I'm 35. I've never been married. I'm not married. I have a mortgage, I own a home. I have a car. My health insurance at this point is in, around 450 a month, et cetera. Upside potential. There's multiple generations, and it was a local business. And so the security was there. So
Right.
why leave a secure environment when I can paint on the weekend and I can paint at night and I can have this extra fun money?
Yeah.
Um, so honestly, it was faith, it was prayer, it was really me tapping into who I was meant to be. It wasn't me just going through the motions and going, this is what my dad wants me to do. This is what my family wants me to do. This is a more esteemed career path. This sounds better, at a party to say I'm this, and this. And artist, honestly, to me, has a lot of negative attachments to it. It's not really taken seriously. There are all these things, people that they're scattered, they're chaotic, they have 5 or 6 cats, they're running late, they can't
Mhm.
manage their finances, and so it was kind of like, why do I really, it was an ego thing. I mean, do I really want to switch like this?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's who I am as a person. I'm constantly creating things in my home. I'm constantly making things and giving them away. And that brings me joy. And I'll be that person until the day I die. So I think it was just me taking the jump of, am I able to make who I am into monetize that
Yeah.
into a career and into a business?
Yeah, and it sounds like you have a real business sense, but I also want to touch on like a lot of what you said hit with me too. I mean, I think I just got married, but pre that, it's like when you're running your own business, it's like, well, the health insurance and the car and the mortgage, and it's like it's scary. Like it is nice when there is another option. You're like, I mean, that is the easier option is to like take the secure path. But then I think what you touched on too is I do think as I don't know, as women, like when I say I'm an artist, a lot of the times people are like, "Oh, that's fun." And it's like, no, it's a real career path. And so it is, there's like that element too, like the emotional feeling like, you know, people might not take me as seriously as like they should. And so I think there's something there that I'm just really glad you touched on because I'm sure a lot of artists could relate to that. But I do want to talk about your kind of business sense. Like you did take the leap. How did you start to think about, all right, how am I going to make this something? How am I going to, I mean, it was already something, but like, how am I going to really make this a profitable career long term?
So I would say, first of all, anyone can do it. A couple of things, I was thinking about what to say to you. You have to believe in yourself. You have to. It's a lonely business. You have to be your own cheerleader. You have your Haleys out in the world. You have a lot of people on Instagram, TikTok. You can pay lots of money to go online and get a website, art coach, whatever. But at the end of the day, you've got to believe in yourself. You've got to believe in your talent. You've got to believe in your creativity. And you have to put yourself out in the world authentically as who you are. So I had to make up my mind at that juncture that I was turning in my notice and saying goodbye to benefits, goodbye to a paycheck,
Mhm.
goodbye to commissions and vacation days and all the things that you're giving up. My first year's goal as a single female, not putting my house on the market and moving into a one bedroom, one bathroom dump apartment was I'm going to maintain my lifestyle. Not, I don't have to buy any new clothes or any new boots or I may not go to the Bahamas this year. I may drive to the beach if I'm lucky or go to the lake. But my lifestyle, I'm going to keep my lifestyle the same and I'm not going to go into debt. That was my first year's goal stepping out.
Mhm.
And honestly, Haley, and I'm being humble, but I work my buns off. I mean,
Mhm.
I work very hard. Then, people would be like, "Do you sleep?" Kinda, but I knew I had to. I was smart with art supplies. I watched sales when canvases went on buy one get one. I would buy canvases then. I just worked really hard. I did shows. I posted I post very confidently. You're always positive. You're always confident. You don't have to be fake. Anybody that follows me knows that I'm very authentic and I'm very transparent and I have struggles just like anybody. But you put yourself out into the world that you're adding something. You're not drowning or taking something away. I also had the freedom, which I don't now because I'm married. I had the freedom where I could work all the time. I remember getting asked out or having a boyfriend, and they were like, I never see you. You're always working. Or can you get together later because you're always busy? I had to make money. I know there's a balance because you can't create from a place of depletion and exhaustion. We need rest to recalibrate when we're creatives. But it's hard to beat hustle. I mean, it really is tough to beat hustle.
I also feel like in the early phases, especially the first few years of business, that's kind of that's the exchange. Like to get to that next level, and I don't want to say that's the only way, but I was the same way, I wasn't seeing
Yeah.
people. I was taking calls like late at night. And I mean, I remember my roommates at the time were like, "What are you doing? Like, you
Yeah.
don't have to do this." And it's like, but I want to, and I see the vision. And it might mean that I don't go on a date this weekend and like I stay in on a Saturday to paint or to do a call or to do a podcast or whatever, but like I see the vision. And so I think there is something to that. But I also want to touch on that, like kind of relates to believing in yourself, but also that confidence you're putting out there. I mean, that is something that I think you have, and you said you're very authentic, but it does take a certain mindset to like appear, especially on like social media and stuff, with that level of confidence. How did you kind of cultivate that type of, I guess, I don't want to say persona, but like, how did you figure out how you were going to appear to the world on socials and it shows and all of that?
I think just going through that transition of having that security and having those jobs and knowing that I had made that choice to
Mhm.
leave and I had made that choice to be on my own. I asked myself the question, what's the worst thing that can happen? Like sometime, I mean, that does sound very negative, but
No,
when
but
you're single and you're on your own and you're kind of, you're 35 years old. It's not like you're 22 and you've just gotten out of college. I mean, I've had now 12, 13, 14 years out in the real world. And it was like the worst thing that can happen is I fail. I don't make it. Can't pay my mortgage. And so I go get another job and I'm still artistic and I'm still creative and I still paint on the side. Like,
Mhm.
and what is the cost of that? Temporarily my pride, temporarily my
Yeah.
reputation. So who's going to remember that in 6 months or 12 months or 5 years? Nobody. Or if they do, I hope they get a life. Like I do. I'm going to remember it. But my risk of not trying was burning in me to try more than it was to not try. So I think I put myself out in confidence and also just out of survival. Like I had to get the word out. I don't know. I guess in some ways, Haley, I have a very adventurous, kind of a fearless personality.
Mhm.
And that served me really well. And one thing I would tell people, is, I don't know if we're going to get to this in the conversation, but there's a lot of my opportunities that I got because I asked for them. I
Yeah.
asked.
Well, let's
And
talk about that.
a lot of artists they're not willing to ask. And you don't even have to be an artist, but you're already putting yourself out there in your work, which is very vulnerable. And so it's kind of like you don't have anything left in the tank to push any further. So many times, I think my attitude of nobody's going to come for me. Nobody's waking up and looking for me or looking for my art. I mean, maybe a few people are, but I have to keep showing up for myself and for my creativity and for my brand.
Mhm.
And that will never stop. I mean, no matter how well known I am, how well established I am, what collabs I'm doing with right now currently a couple of national brands, I have to keep showing up for me.
What were some of those things? Like, what are examples of asks that you've done that have really, worked out? I mean, I think there's probably like galleries or in this podcast, like you were like, "Hey, raise my hand," and I was like, "I would love to have you on." We already kind of knew each other, so can you explain like more of the types of things you have asked for, I guess, and how you went about it?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I had a couple. I had one that it's now I've forgotten. One of them is that I saw a company that's a national company, and I've kind of steered away from prints just because I was so like everything has to be original and everything
Mhm.
has to be one of a kind. And I don't want anyone to have the painting that Haley and her husband have. And I reached out to a print company and I said, would you be willing to represent my work? And they're a pretty big company, and it was just squeaky wheel. I mean, it's they're not going to, a lot of times you're not going to hear from people in the first email.
Yeah.
um, and they contacted me and they said, we only pick, I think, 4 artists a year. And anyway, I'm gonna work with them in 2026. I just thought of the other one was trying to get in a niche with college dorms and designers for dorms, because that's kind of a new, or I feel like it's kind of trending, or it's
Yeah.
a bigger business than it was, I would say, 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah, my
And
dorm was not designed. It was not cute.
we went to the Container Store and my parents left. Anyway, I reached out to several different bigger designers, and a couple of them were like, "We love your work, da 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 da." Then you never hear from them again. Anyway, one lady I had a conference call with last week. It took her, I guess, 6 months to get back to me, and she's on HGTV. She's been in People magazine.
Amazing.
She's picked me up for next year as well as one of her artists with her bigger project. So I'm not saying recklessly throw everything against the wall and see what sticks, because I think you will wear yourself out and run yourself kind of ragged that way. But I think really stepping out there and asking, a lot of my collabs I've asked, a lot of my giveaways, I've reached out to people and say, hey, do you want to do a giveaway? It's a tough mindset to get to. But once you have that confidence and you realize, I think when I realized a couple of years in, my followers, my fans will find me. The people that don't like my work or don't get my work or don't like me will fall. But I
Mhm.
think people, quickly, I do want to speak to people that are just obsessed over the algorithms and what's Instagram doing and what's Facebook doing and what's, Meta's changed it again. Like, I'm not saying I don't care, but like, I feel like if you stay true to yourself, true to your brand, that kind of organically, and you're consistent, you're consistent in your messaging, you're consistent in when you post, you're consistent in how you post, you keep showing up, I think your business just follows you.
I agree. And I also think, like, touching on the algorithm meta Instagram thing, it's at least in my experience of having, the Scouted Studio, which is a pretty big brand, my own personal art, and like this, which is, I feel like, mid-size in terms of followers, follower count, which I think is what most people focus on when it comes to the algorithm, has nothing to do with success. Just as somebody who has three different businesses with all different follower counts and
Right.
stuff. So it's, I think what I want to circle back to you on is it's absolutely true. Like, if you stay the course and when something's a good opportunity and you're consistent and all of that, like, the sales and the customers and the clients and the people that are obsessed with you will follow, even if it's not just through Instagram as the sole way of like things being successful. And you have seen success, I would say, from an outside perspective on social media, but it sounds like a lot of your success is coming from a lot of other things too.
Well, it makes me sad when it's an artist that's 1, 2, 3 years old, and they're like, my best friend, my neighbor just unfollowed me, or my whatever. And I'm like, just, like, I don't look at that because it affects my confidence. It affects my performance. I go into my studio in a negative space. And so one thing that I would say 13 years out is it's changed a lot. It's going to keep changing. So if you're trying to catch it, you're not going to catch it. You know what I
Right.
mean? You've talked about, we all have to have an email platform, all those things that we all know. But I think if you want to stay negative or comparative or confused, I think keep looking at those social media metrics, because you're going to stay in kind of a spiral, or at least I am. And it's not helpful. It's just not helpful in my business.
No, and like our energy could be much better used on other things. Honestly, I'll be honest. I don't have the energy to really care if my neighbor unfollows me anymore.
Right.
I know,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty of people who I'm friends with in real life who probably don't care that I talk about art every day. Like, they're probably like, I don't need to follow this, and I'm okay with that. Like, they're not my customer anyway. So I think stepping away from just like virality and followers equals success and more like what is the whole big picture, I think is kind of the message and like what's really important.
Well, and I think one thing I'm focusing on is you can't, whether you're an artist or a mother or a wife or whatever, you cannot be all things to all people.
No.
You're going to disappoint people, you're going to let people down. So it's really like focusing on, what do I love doing and what am I good at and what brings me joy and what brings me peace. We have to monetize that. And I know that we have to make money, and I know that it's not a perfect world. But I think when we try to do all things for everybody, that's when we get spread too thin and we water ourselves down.
Right. And I think that's the default. I mean, I will say, like, I mainly work with women and I mainly talk to women, and I have, based on the stats, like 89% of my listeners are women. And I do think it's very specifically like us wanting to be liked, and we want to be everything to everyone. And like, I think there's some respectfulness. Like, I respect that in some ways. It's like, yeah, we want to be great and we want to be caring and we want everyone to like us because we're doing a great job, but we can't. You can't be everything to everyone. And so I think when you really lean into like, who can I be the best version of myself? Like, how can I be the best version of myself for me? And then therefore pour that into everyone else. in a business, and like we can get to the money stuff too, but like you're going to see success because you're not diluting the brand by trying to like make Susie over here happy because she wants this, and Bob over here happy because he wants this. It's like you're leaning into what you actually want, and then people feel that authenticity too, because it's a mismatch when you're just trying to do it all the time.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And it's hard. I mean, you've spoken on this. It's hard when there is a place where it's like, Carrie, but I need to make money,
Yeah.
at my job, or like one girl that I'm friends with, I'm a single mom, and and she's extremely talented, but she came to me, and she can paint anything, whereas I can't. I mean, she can
Hmm.
do portraits, pets, buildings, I can't, or I don't want to. But at the same time, it's very confusing because you go to her page or you go to her Instagram or whatever, and she doesn't look like she has a niche just because she's trying to do everything for everybody.
Well, and I think that's almost a lesson in knowing yourself. It's like a marketing thing where it's like you don't have to share everything, because there are phases where, and I'll say this, like sometimes you do need to make money and you need to take the commission that like maybe isn't your niche, but it's like I got to
Right.
get the bill paid. We don't have to tell people we're doing that. I've gone through
And
seasons where I'm like, yes, I'll paint your dog, but I'm not posting that on Instagram because I don't want anyone else to ask me.
right.
I mean, it sounds like you have really found your niche from a style standpoint, but how are you also, I guess you've been in this for 13 years, so you can talk about it in different stages, but like thinking about the money. Like, how are you thinking, like, how am I making this sustainable while also staying true to like what I want this to be?
I think just being more organized with releases, collections. There's all different avenues that we can all go in with.
Hmm.
We can apply for shows, we can be in galleries, we can do an Instagram release, we can do commissions. And so I feel like for me right now, it's been focusing on commissions because I like that one on one. I like that interaction. And I like someone having a piece that I created specifically for them. And then at the same time, though, as we all know, even if you look at my work and you're abstract and it has texture and color and it's very whimsical, what's the big deal? I'm still being geared to paint a certain thing, and it's still up to my client at the end of the day if it's finished or not. And so what's
Yeah.
important to me as a creative is I have to have that outlet and that freedom to be able to paint what I want to paint, if that
Hmm.
makes sense. And so staying in that style, but continuing to kind of, like I've moved recently. My colors have changed, my surroundings have changed. That's inspiring me to kind of go in different directions in terms of just what I want to create, what I want to put out into the world as an artist, and people can purchase that just kind of coming from me and my heart in this new place.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I like that you're following that, but you also have a very, I would say, clear through line. You did kind of mention there's like a lot of ways we can be successful. So there's like the designers and the shows and the galleries, selling yourself. What have you found works for you? I know what works for you won't work for everyone, but is there a certain outlet that's been really successful? Is it designers or launching yourself? Like where have you seen success with selling your own artwork?
I would say commissions, collaborations, getting with a company that's in your same vein,
Hmm.
furniture company, an antique shop, those kind of things. I feel like you can kind of get me doing something with a protein shake is not really, people can't really connect the dots, and
Yeah.
they probably shouldn't. If you have a decent following, I guess people love art on different things, jewelry, bags, pillows, fabrics. I've tried all different things. And I think initially that gets a lot of traction. And that also shows your range. It's an undertone of confidence. It's people that
Definitely.
are very tight and that are very, and I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying if you go into things knowing that people are going to find you and like you and enjoy it, and you can drown out the people that don't, then you're much more willing to go into something with an attitude of, this, let's try it. This is art. This is creative. This is expansion. And
Yeah.
it's you're not putting so much pressure on yourself to be successful or not. So, I mean, I'm not trying to make it sound too easy, but it's just a lot of it is you have to have the mindset going into it.
And I think that's something you do so well, or it appears that you do so well, is you kind of have blinders on of like, if I'm excited about this, if it's creative, I really believe people will also come to it. Whereas I think a lot of artists more fall into this camp of, well, she over here is doing this and seems to be successful. If I also maybe launch this way or do this type of product, I'll also be successful instead of kind of like doing your own thing. You want to think about what is going to work for me, what am I excited about, and it's might not be what worked for the artist next door. And I think that's something that you're doing really well, both confidently and creatively. You're like, I have this great idea, I'm going to put my artwork on pillows. I don't care if that worked or didn't work for this person over here. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it with this company because I know my audience is going to like it.
You've got to believe in it before anyone else does.
And I think you have to be excited about it. I mean, I always say this, and I mean it in the nicest way, like, we are not that unique. If I'm really excited about something, odds are someone else is going to be excited about it too. Like, I don't have taste that's so far off of everyone else's. Like, if I think it's really pretty, someone else probably will think it's pretty too.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a good way of thinking about it. Kind of switching gears a little bit, can you touch on what of your most successful moments been? I mean, some of these collaborations, some of these big sales, like what has really stood out for you as kind of a successful moment in these past 13 years?
So I would just say one of the things that it's just a memory. I think it was maybe 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. I put a few pieces into a very well known luxury kind of furniture store in Birmingham. I think the owner reached out to me that time. I'm pretty sure they reached out to me, and she had been doing prints. And she has very nice furnishings, but she was like, we need original art to go with the furnishings, which is, we could do a whole podcast on that. Anyway, so I put my art in there. It did very well. And one of their vendors came in that was selling sofas and coffee tables and lamps and all that. They asked about my artwork. And anyway, the guy called me, and it was like in February or something. And he was like, what are you doing July 15th? And I was like, whatever you need me to.
Yeah, exactly.
I knew it was an opportunity. I
Uh-huh.
said, whatever you need me to do, because that's an opportunity knocking.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I met him on the 15th of July. I think I had 45 pieces of art. He sent like 5 people that flew into town that I wasn't expecting to look at everything. Anyway, they pulled my pieces, they took it to High Point, and
Wow.
I knew that they potentially had connections with Horchow and Neiman Marcus. And when you get with a company, like, they don't have time to tell every vendor how their market went. So
Mhm.
anyway, I went to the Neiman Marcus website, and all my work was on it. And it was just cool. Like, Neiman Marcus is not known for artwork and furniture, but it's a big name that's been around for decades. And I was like, there's my artwork, for
Yeah.
every nation to buy. And I don't know, I found it. They didn't tell me. It was several pieces, and it was just a very proud moment of being at that scale.
Yeah, I mean that's amazing. And I mean now you can say like as featured in Neiman Marcus. What have been some challenges? Like what has been maybe stuff that you're still dealing with or things you've kind of overcome in the past?
I think, comparison.
Hmm.
I think when you get into a space of this person's more talented than me, or I couldn't do a child's portrait, I can't
Hmm.
draw a face. Sometimes I struggle, Haley, honestly, with, do I want to take art lessons? Do I want to go back to school? I've got a great eye, and I'm very confident in what I create, but sometimes I really battle, could I be even better? And really kind of hone my skill and take this further. And I think there's kind of this internal struggle of expressing yourself and being who you are as an artist, or do you, kind of disrupt that? And when I start to go, I can't do, and I can't do, I have to continue to say, this is who I'm showing up for in the world. And I am in a space that there's not another Haley Price, there's not another Carrie Pittman.
Right.
I'm up in that space authentically. And that's my contribution and that's my gift.
Absolutely. And understanding too, like we can't be everything for everyone. We also can't do everything. I definitely have those same thoughts. Sometimes I'm like, who am I to be talking to this artist or curating the scouted studio when I myself have my own doubts about my art all the time or my skills? And so I think that's a challenge a lot of us face, but it's nice to hear that other people feel that way too, because then it's reassuring that, all right, I'm not the only one. And it's crazy. Like the fact that you worry about that stuff is like, well, she's so talented and she's selling so much work. And from the outside, it seems like it's all great. So I think it's, I don't know, I'm appreciative that you shared that.
Thank you. Well, and again, as creatives, we have to rest. And it seems very contradictory because we talked about in the beginning, there is just a confidence and a hustle component.
Hmm.
Um, but when I'm tired or worn down, I make sure I go into my studio in a positive place. And if I'm not, then I get myself there, whether it's scripture or music or a candle or whatever. I think that self awareness is really important.
Yeah, and knowing when to, I guess, push through it and when to not, when to say like, no, I need to get my butt up and like work, or like, no, I actually really need to like let myself have this moment and rest. I think that's always a hard decision for me. Well, this has been great. What do you see next for your business? What's on the horizon for Carrie Pittman Art?
So my next stretch is, which is, it's going to be amazing. I'm really working on getting more personal and more
Hmm.
involved with other artists. So I alluded to the fact quickly that we've moved, physically moved, and I've built a studio here. All the studios and basements and things that I've been in, I kind of customized it, but it's also really for me to share. I want to do some intensives, people going through trauma or heartbreak or grief or loss, and using art as kind of how it started out for me, way to communicate and a way to express, and a therapy, and have people stay here, do a lot of one-on-ones and a lot of events. So I think that's kind of, I'm going to continue to paint, I'm going to continue to do commissions, I'm going to continue to do collabs and do prints. I do have the college dorm decorator set up. I have the print company next year set up. I'm going to continue to work for Neiman's and Horchow, but really kind of getting people in with me. I feel like, people need to be in the presence. They need to know how to begin and how to start artwork. A very open, free space that's non-judgmental. And so I want to foster and create that.
I love that. And I will definitely, like, once you get that up and going, I'd love to send people your way because I think that's such a beautiful extension of what you're doing. I'm excited for you. I love to end every episode with an overarching tip or a lesson that could help other artists. Does anything initially come to mind for you?
Honestly, just real, I would just say believe in yourself. Not going out into the space as a victim or downtrodden. Call your best friend, call your mom, get out your journal, go on a walk, but showing up confidently and believing. If you want to create and you want to sell your work and you want other people to see you and to appreciate what you do, just show up in that confident space. I think that consistently really exponentially builds more than anything else.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Carrie, this has been so wonderful. Can you share how everyone can learn more about you? So, socials, website, all the ways people can find you.
Yes, thank you. My Instagram is Carrie Pittman Art. My Facebook is Carrie Pittman Art. And my website is carriepittman.com.
Great. Easy.
So
I'll link all of it too. But thank you so much. This was so great.
thank you, Haley. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really appreciate your time.